Hi, my name is Fred Vey, and I'm going to tell you the story about the wreck of the Leopard in 1907. My grandfather, John Vey, was one of the sealers on that boat, and in 1970 I recorded him on tape telling me this story. I'm basically going to pass the story on to you as close as I can to the story that he told. We ran ashore in a snowstorm in the night, and there was no ice, only snow on the water. But there was a storm of wind in on the land, and the snow was packed in tight. It was right to the bottom, but you couldn't stand on it. You had to crawl. We could see nothing, only a storm of wind and snow. We brought some canvas on her. She had steaming canvas, but it didn't do any good. We hit the rocks near Cape Bella on the south coast of Newfoundland. I was just putting on my oil clothes to go on watch. When I got on deck, there she was, ashore. There were so many men bawling out and screeching when the captain said, "Every man for himself now, boys, and may God have mercy on us." We tried to get out the boats. Some of them had already been washed off the deck, but we could do nothing with them in the slob. The captain gave orders to throw everything that could be found out on top of the slob. We were about 200 yards from the land, and we made a path of boards and everything else that we could get our hands on into the land. We used the boards from the cabin and the staves from the deck, everything we could find, to make a path right to the belly catas on the rocks. When we got to the rocks, we climbed up on a ledge about 7 feet wide. An old iron wreck was stuck in the cliff there, part of an old iron steamer. Now that steamer was the Delmar, which had gone down some years earlier. Now that made a bit of shelter for us, and we got under that. One man was looking around and found a rope hanging down just before daylight. He went so far up the rope, and it was frozen in the ice. Some men had knives, and now everyone had to take their trick and turn and go up and dig the rope out of the ice. But be sure not to cut the rope, because that was our life now. We knew that as soon as the wind slackened and the slob loosened, in would come the sea, and we would all be washed away. The rope was a heavy one, and was good and sound. After the men had cut the rope out of the ice, we took to it climbing up, 5 men on the rope at a time. When we got to the top, there was an overhang of frozen sod with the gravel all washed out from under it. That made the rope stand straight up at the top. And the first man to climb up and get it over, I tell you, he must have been some man. Now the rest of us didn't have it so hard, because when the next man poked his head up, he grabbed him, and that was the way we all made it to the top. When I got to the top, so many hands came down and grabbed me and hauled me in over. We then held hands to help up all the rest, because we were afraid that the sods forming the overhang might break loose. That's how we all got to the top. We were 12 miles from the nearest Livias in Renews. The snow turned to rain, but I had on my oilskins, so I was all right. But some men were pretty cold and pretty wet. We had one man with us who belonged to Renews, and we all followed him. We stopped to the south side of Renews and got something to eat there. And the captain sent a message to the wreck commissioner, who was stationed in Renews. We met the wreck commissioner coming on a horse and slide. Another man was driving him, and he stopped. There were 12 of us together, and we were the head gang. He showed us his house and told us to go over there. We had to travel around the harbour because his house was on the other side. It was an old-fashioned house with a back kitchen built on. He lived there with his wife and his servant girl. When we went in, we told them we weren't hungry, but we were wet and cold, especially the men with no oil clothes. They put a fire in the inside kitchen and told us to take off our clothes around the stove and stay in that room until it was all dried. When we came out, they put on a feed for us: salt beef, bread, and tea. When the wreck commissioner came back, he went and got houses for us all to go to. The house that I went to put up 8 of us. They put a mat on the floor for us to lie down on, and we put in a very good night. There were 120 of us on the ship under the command of Captain Bob Bartlett, who later became famous for his polar expeditions. The house belonged to an old woman who had 2 sons and a daughter. The daughter had 2 boys, and they used to get it on the floor and dance for us. The daughter's husband had drowned some time before. We stayed there in that house for 2 days. A westbound steamer came into Renews, took us aboard, and carried us up to Placentia. Argentia wasn't there then. We had to walk a long ways from Placentia after we got off the boat until we got to the train. We were hungry by this time. The captain and a lot of men got off at Briggs Junction, and he told us that when we got to Carbonear, the policemen would be there to look out for us. The policemen were waiting in Carbonear, and he took us to the McCarthy Hotel. There were 2 women there, and they waited on us until 12 o'clock that night. They served bread and tea and boiled eggs. I had 2. I could never eat any more than that. But some men ate as many as 7 or 8. There were 62 of us, and when we got up the next morning, the policeman gave us $2 each to pay our way home. Only 2 of us came down the North Shore: Billy Barrett of Old Perdican and myself. We got home with nothing, only $2 and the clothes on our back. I spent the rest of the spring knitting twine and repairing pumps, and doing whatever I could to get ready for the summer. There was always something to do.